Welcome to the Eclectic Gamers Podcast. Today is Sunday, October 27th. This is episode 231. I'm Tony.
I'm Dennis. Tony, we're back. Expo happened.
It did.
We weren't there.
We were not.
I had one person ask about it. I was like, I think everyone knows that we don't go to Expo for a variety of reasons. But we will talk a very little bit about it. Since we're not there, we're not going to. There are plenty of other shows where people can find out about it.
That they were actually there at it.
I do want to thank One Way Ticket, our latest Patreon member.
One way or another. No more.
Okay.
We'll get.
Yes,
we'll get copyright
it was
strike.
Basically perfect. So
yeah,
it's true. I don't want it because when this auto loads to YouTube, it will look for that stuff.
Yes,
and it will judge. Speaking of looking for stuff, I'm looking to hear what you did over the last couple weeks.
I have somehow managed to. It's a little bit. No, it's bad.
Oh dear,
it's real annoying.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Oh my.
So, we have an open position at work. I am the hiring manager, so I'm setting up all the interviews and I'm and doing all of that to do interviews. But somehow in the course of this, there are two other groups that are doing interviews for like management level people. So they bring in managers from outside of their group. Somehow I got tagged into that. Mm-hmm. So all of last week and all of next week, I have somewhere between 1 and 3 interviews every single day.
Wow, that's a lot.
Between the 3 groups that I'm helping interview for, between my group and the 2 other groups. So it feels like my life anymore is just sitting in and asking people interview questions. And like by the end of the day, I come home and and I like talk to my wife and kids, and they're like, and that's like, hey, so what kind of learner do you think you are?
Oh.
Can you tell me about a time when you had a bad input on yourself and how you handled receiving such bad input? Yeah. It's like my life is interviews now, and I don't know who I pissed off to get locked into doing all of these interviews, but it feels like all I do is interviews.
I have not done an interview in quite a while, which is nice because I do not like doing them. We're doing merit, though, the merit assignments.
I'm in the middle of that, too.
So, I mean, I got my stuff done really quick, but the thing is, I record because we do an analysis across all of our groups to see where they're scoring individuals because we share the merit pool the way we have options, but the way our department does it is we share the merit pool. Just everyone is pulling from the same pool. We're not carving it up by division or program or anything like that. So I record all of them.
I worked at a job at one time, and we were upper management was there, and they were doing their whole upper management pep talk, talking about things, yada 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 yada, and one of the upper managers literally dropped the phrase, "Our expectation of you is to exceed expectations." And in the Q&A portion, one of the people went, "So if your expectation is for us to exceed expectations on our review, when we exceed expectations, we'll just be meeting expectations?" And the manager just stared at her and then just kind of mumbled something, and then they went on.
Okay. Wow. In terms of gaming, I did finish Final Fantasy II.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I'd never played that one before, so I got through it.
So now you're on 3.
I am. I'm not very far in it. Okay. I see why these weren't released in America. That's how I'm going to start this.
Okay.
It's not terrible, but it's all right. So you've played the first Final Fantasy?
Yes.
Did you play 2 or 3?
No.
Okay. So just as a real quick summary, Final Fantasy 1, the main thing that was sort of defining about it, as you know from playing a lot of Final Fantasies, is the magic system often changes between Final Fantasy games. So Final Fantasy 1 was the whole, you get X number of casts of any given level of spell, and as you level your character, you're able to do higher levels, and you get more casts within any given level. So that... Okay, makes sense. I never loved that system, but that's how they did. They didn't do magic points in the traditional sense. Final Fantasy II did do magic points. Traditional magic point setup, except the way they did it is you didn't have levels per se, or maybe there were, but you didn't get to pick your jobs. They were defined like later Final Fantasies are. But what weapons and gear you equipped, you were leveling those. So you'd level your sword ability if you were using swords. You'd level your spells if you were using the spells. And the higher the level, whatever the level of the spell was the amount of mana it took. So you start, and everything starts as a 1. So Cure cost 1 mana and didn't do very much healing. But then when it was level 9, it's now costing you 9 mana to cast Cure. You can't like just cast lower level Cure. You have to cast whatever you've got. So it was like that, which I didn't love, but I did like having the magic points.
It's a bunny, but too bad. The only thing I can cast is Meteor.
Yes. It's like, yes, it was like that. So now I've started 3, and in 3, it's the one where, a la Final Fantasy XI, you can change your characters to any of the jobs available, and you level the jobs. And then we're back, though, to Final Fantasy I style of magic. So they're at tiers. And you get a certain number of casts in it. So I can't just save mana by casting Cure all the time. I get 8 casts of Cure, period, because it's level 1. I can't turn level 2 casts into level 1 casts. So I'm back to the crappy magic system that I didn't like.
With the job system.
With the job system, which I don't mind the job system per se. I need to get more experience with it. But obviously, as you go along later in the game, I'm going to get more and more jobs because I only have like 6 right now. And you have to start them all from 1. So it's come up with like, what do you do? Because I think the way they wanted people to do it was go and grind back in the old day. Because I've seen some suggestions online of strategies like just take 5 rounds and equip like one guy with double shield and just click defend for 5 rounds and then kill whatever it is, and you'll quickly be able to like move the levels up and stuff. Because it's all about the number of turns they get is what determines the leveling, not what they actually do, like in terms of damage or anything. So I was just like, oh my god, this sounds terribly inefficient. But they're like, but you want some of those jobs. You don't want to just like play Red Mage the whole time,
right?
Because that'd be a disaster. So I'm doing that. And then also special shout out to Blizzard for their Junkenstein's Lab that they're doing this year. You remember the old Halloween terror thing, and there's Junkenstein's Revenge, and they did it forever.
Right. It was always the same.
It was always the same. And it wasn't bad, but it was just like, it got tedious, especially if you were trying to grind it for loot crates or whatever. This time they've done Junkenstein's Lab. It's an arcade mode thing, and it's actually, it's frustrating, but it's a lot of fun. So it seems like the concepts from PvE kind of got integrated into this. So basically, you start and you get like cards, and there are rarities to the cards, and they are your modifiers. And you equip 2, and then every round you can equip another one, and you can also always throw one away and equip a one to replace one out. So like you're going along, and as a case in point would be like Reinhardt. I think he's got one where when he flame strikes, he torb loads like molten core. With the where along the same path. Or Reaper can fly. This is what you wanted, is Reaper flying around. Moira can throw 3 orbs. That she fires them like a spread shot. And they go damage or healing. Mercy can heal, and the heal beam bounces to a second person and does 25% healing to whoever the second closest to whoever your target is. And she's got another higher level one that does that with the damage boost. Yeah. Or she's got one when she Valks, Winston shield.
Neat.
Soldier, like modifier, healing circle, moves with him. Healing circle, when used, gives everyone a 15% damage boost. Don't have to be in the circle. It's just an ability. It just is. So anyway, so you get all these, and which ones you have available are not the same every time. So, and the further you go, the higher level the cards get to be. And they put this mode, it's always control maps, and it's always best out of 5. So...
And I hear they're bringing 6v6 back next season.
That's next season.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun, possibly fun. But the lab is fun. So if you ever want to go into arcade mode, I would say it's definitely worth checking out Junkenstein's Lab, because it's just a really crazy way to play. And it was a breath of fresh air. So it was nice. Speaking of fresh air, Tony, we got pinball.
It's the pinball.
I don't know why I said fresh air, because we're going to be talking about a remake.
It's fresh remade air.
Fresh-ish. My favorite-ish is fresh-ish. All right,
Studio
so Stern
2 Scarborough.
Pinball. Stern Pinball, the legendary pinball manufacturer, largest manufacturer in the game today, has revealed pinball's great hit Metallica as Metallica Remastered. Metallica Remastered is the remastered version of the 2013 title. So I do have a link in the show notes to the Kineticist article that describes Metallica Remastered. But let me go ahead and give y'all a crash course on it really, really quick. Designer, as before, because it is the same layout, is John Borg. The rules are different a little bit. Mostly it's the original rules, and the original rules were primarily designed by Lyman Sheets. However, there are code enhancements that are involved in this game, and those code enhancements were led by Raymond Davidson. This time, the art is not Dirty Donnie, it's Reese Cooper. Sound is going to be Jerry Thompson, and this has gotten rid of the dot matrix display and gone with the LCD. So we got animation work, and that display work was led by Chuck Ernst. This is now no longer a SAM game. It is running on the Spike 2 system. This is noteworthy because there were a lot of rumors, I never bought into them, that Metallica being remastered has, like, people knew about this for a long time.
Right.
But a lot of people thought it would be the first Spike 3 game, because we know Stern has been working on Spike 3, and purportedly they're very close to revealing it.
I would think they would do that for a new title, not a remastered
so. And that was
title.
always my stance.
Okay.
But I mostly talked about that over on the other podcast I do, the Pinball Show. But I was right. It was Spike 2, so yay. It is basically like a Cornerstone. However, there are no Pro models. However, they're not like doing the SLE or anything. So there's Premium and there's LE, but there is no Pro. And the pricing is in line with the Cornerstones that are currently on the market. So Premium is $9,700, the limited edition is $13,000, and the limited edition is limited to, surprisingly, only 500 units, which is something I've also said Stern needs to quit doing so many limited counts. It's too, they're making too many.
It's the limited edition. There's only 5,000 of them.
And even with the drop down onto 811 or whatever they did for X-Men, Uncanny X-Men did not day one sell out of LEs from distributors.
Right.
So they're learning. They're learning the need for the false scarcity and how it needs to work again. Some of the major changes between this and the original 2013 version. There are 4 new sculpts in the game. There's UV light to reveal certain art asset elements, including some of that's on, I believe, a couple of the sculpts. Opto spinners now, instead of the standard switch spinners. The band provided new callouts for the game. As I already mentioned, we've got the LCD, so animation. It's not just straight up animation. However, there is concert footage that is included. So think some of the other more modern Spike 2 games that we've seen concert footage with, like Rush. We've got 2 new modes have been added to the game. There are 8 additional songs, and obviously with those 2 changes, there had to be rules expansion to accommodate all of that, and Raymond, as I mentioned, is the one working on that. In our internal notes, Tony, I've included a couple of pictures of the LE and Premium, and again, because there's only LEs and Premiums, this is the Premium iteration. We've played both,
right?
But this is one of the hammer knocks it into the play field and all the rest of it. I just wanted to have a conversation with you about what you think. I don't see any point in talking about the layout and such, because honestly, I think we talked about. Did we talk? I don't know. We talked about it at release. No, we weren't podcasting quite. We've been around a while,
but not that long.
Not that long.
But we've talked about it in the past.
because we played it a lot in tournaments. So, all right. So the layout's the layout, and the rules are primarily still Lyman's rules, with obviously these new accommodations, and they're probably. I think there's some additional stuff maybe with multi-balls and all that. I didn't want to spell it all out because honestly, until you play, who cares? But
right.
What do you think of them doing this remastered, and what do you think it means for the future? Are they going to do more of these? Is this a one and done?
They're always going to do some remasters here and there. I think this makes sense as a remaster compared to some of their other licenses, and I'm sure it's probably a touch easier to get the license re-up to do a re-release or remaster of a music pen compared to some of the other things. But no, it's a good game. I'm sure the used market is still selling very well for them, and they might, if anything, be starting to get a little thinner on the ground. So I think this is going to be an overall good seller for them.
And early reports are the LEs are all spoken for on this. Obviously, it's one of the more modest LE counts. We haven't seen a 500 count LE run in years at this point.
Yeah.
And it is obviously people know they like the layout, which has given it a leg up. I agree with you. I definitely believe we will see a lot more of these moving forward. I don't know which ones will be next. Metallica was interesting because there weren't like a bunch of vaults. Like AC/DC had a variety of editions come out. Star Trek had a variety of editions come out. Iron Man had a variety of editions come out. But there are a lot of Sam games that didn't experience that. My speculation has been the next game won't be a Sam. It'll be a Spike 1 and they'll do Ghostbusters. Because there's been a lot of demand for it.
It's time to go for World Poker Tour.
World Poker Tour would be an interesting one. But
I bet you they'll pay you to use the license.
That one they have to do the art upgrade. Like that one needs new art. No one's going to complain. There's some people that are going to prefer the Dirty Donnie art, but I do think that this art actually looks really good.
It does look good. It looks good.
And all the scopes and stuff. I like everything about this. Basically, art's subjective, but everything else about this is an improvement. So, what do you think about? There have been some people, let's say in particular, LE buyers of the 2013 version, who are frustrated that an LE version like this has come out. And I will note that when Stern said they would never remake LEs, they clarified that. I went back and checked the interview. That was only for Spike 2 LEs. Like they won't do another Godzilla LE.
Right.
Is what they've said. That promise was never extended, but again, people were like, but it's limited. And it's like, is this different enough to be okay? Is it?
Well, this has different code and different stuff. This is Metallica Remaster. So obviously it's a completely new game. It's Speed 2 Cruise Control. It's a completely new movie. It's completely different.
But the layout of Speed 2 was different than the layout of Speed because there was a boat. Or a ship instead of a bus. So different layouts. This has the same layout.
Nah.
So
I can see I can see why they might make a point of it, but I just
actually
think
we're going to touch on this later outside of this game. So because
okay.
we got an email, so I'm laying the groundwork.
Laying groundwork.
Yeah, but this is going to do really well for them.
It's gonna sell great.
And people got to see that at Pinball Expo. Speaking of Pinball Expo, that, as we noted at the start of the episode, just happened and that we were not there. I will say some of the highlights, there seemed to be a decent amount of buzz from a number of the homebrews in the homebrew section of the show. There was a lot of love for Uncanny X-Men. A lot of people finally got to get hands on it. There was a lot of positive response to the new Metallica game. So that's the main things I heard in terms of the big players. And in terms of the smaller players, general consensus seemed to be that Turner Pinball's Ninja Eclipse looked pretty good, and Space Hunt from Hexa Pinball it was there, and it got a lot of positive feedback too. Not so positive on the Adventures of Alice in Wonderland, other than
You're joking.
I have heard a couple of people say it played better than the live, like how they made it look on the live, like it shot better than the live stream looked. I've heard that.
It played better than I thought it would.
It played better. You're right. Yeah. It's like,
yes. Getting shot wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. But still a lot of negativity to the upper play field, the Magna play, the power play field. A lot of people didn't like the art in person, and all the rest of it. So, and still continued praise for the sculpts, but everyone could tell the sculpts were good from the images that were provided. Speaking of Ninja Eclipse, that game, incidentally, is now actually expected to sell out of its initial 100-unit run.
Good for them.
I guess that was based off of that show feedback and such. But anyway, there's an interview that Nap Arcade has with Chris Turner of Turner Pinball. I have a link to that in the show notes so people can go and just read the interview, because I'm not going to recap the interview other than to tell you that part of it. So people can go there to enjoy what is said in the interview. We don't do market trends on this show. Pinball market trends. Yeah, he still tries to do pinball.
Still?
Yeah, it's still a thing. It's so made up now that it's... And even he sometimes drops it from certain episodes. He being Zach, for those that don't listen to the pinball show, because sometimes it's just too hard to be creative enough for it. But I got to say, I'm going to trend something down on this show. So trending down this week.
He's going to be jelly.
You know what? He
he's going to be green.
He probably
with
doesn't
jealousy.
even, he doesn't even listen to the show. Trending down this week is Pinball Expo visitors and attendees lists.
A list.
Yes. We received a couple of emails. I didn't recognize the names. I think it was a different person both times in terms of the name and the email address. They emailed us at eclecticgamerspodcast@gmail.com trying to see if we would like to buy the attendee and visitor list from Pinball Expo. Because I don't recognize the names, I cannot say, confirm, claim that officially Expo is selling the list of attendees to make money. However, these people are getting this list from somewhere, and it sure is tacky. And while that might happen with other entities, like maybe TPF sells their attendee list, it wouldn't shock me. The extra tackiness is the poor research that was done to think that a podcast would want to buy this.
What information could I glean from this that would be useful for the podcast or for me?
I'm trying to figure, because obviously the only value in such a list is to monetize it. So what would our monetization strategy be? The only thing I could think of is, because they claimed it had over 6,000 names on it.
Well,
it would be for me to
have 6,000 emails.
Yeah, get 6,000 emails that we would then email to try and convince them to join the Patreon of a podcast that they don't listen to. Because we do not get 6,000 downloads an episode.
Right.
So,
and can you imagine just the sheer damage that would do to like any goodwill you would have in the space?
Anyway, tacky. So trending down. Do not try and sell me your lists. I have no interest in them. I mean, honestly, if you put any thought into it, you'd be like, why would a podcast want this? This is silly.
No, that's definitely something.
Like mod makers or someone might want the list.
And yeah, they might want that.
Maybe.
List,
I mean, the thing is, a lot of attendees, because of as you could tell from that numeric count, I mean, it's just like with TPF. There are a lot of people in town who just go and check out the show. They're not actually collectors. They don't want any of this crap. So, whatever. Vendors can spend their money on whatever they want. I don't care about that. I just don't want to get those emails. Speaking of emails, we do get emails that I do like us to get. And we got a couple that I want to cover, and they're both involving the pinball segment. So the first one is from Chris G, who says, the subject of the email is, "Excuse me.
Princess."
He didn't write that.
I know.
Take it back.
No.
You take it back.
No.
It was excuse with 6 U's, but I tried to carry them properly. This is what he wrote. "I like Rumor Corner for the song and y'all's disdain for it. The people clamor. Great takes on Alice's adventure. What garbage. Have you heard of Barrel of Fun's rumored game BOFA? I don't know what that means. Back to the email. I started playing Civilization 6 again with the Civ 7 news. Do y'all like that game at all? Chris." Thank you, Chris. Would you like to talk about Civilization, Tony? I know we're in the pinball segment, but
we are. The Civilization games are great. They're all great. All of them have been good. Some of them are better than others. 6 is fun. 4 is fun. 5 is fine. 3 is awesome.
Tony has played it more than me. Civilization, the first game, was one of my very earliest PC games. I played a lot of it. I played a few of them. I think Civ 4 was the last one I put a lot of time into.
I think it was Civ 4 that had the play by email option.
Yes,
and we had it.
This email is such bait. I set this up for you. I mean, I didn't ask for this email, but I was just like, Tony's going to bring up the email. I know it. I won't have to. So, would you like to explain how we enjoyed that feature?
So they had a play by email feature on Civ 4 where you would play your turn, and then when you hit end turn, it would email the other person their turn, the save or their turn to play, and they play their turn. And you would just email the turns back and forth. And we played that game for over a year.
Yes, one game. Tony and I played one game. We were allied nations working for a team victory, and yes, we would just. Months and months would go by, and it'd be like, I'm building units.
Right? It would. I mean, there would be points in time where we might like play like 5 turns in a day, and then you'll play like 1 turn a day or 1 turn every other day for several days, and you might get 2 or 3 in a day, and then it's back to 1 turn every day or 2 as things just bounce back and forth.
We won.
I mean, how could we not?
All
right, that was kind of a given.
Yeah. So anyway, yes,
it was
Civilization,
enjoyable.
A lot of fun. Second email. This email is from Shannon B. And Shannon writes, "Hello, guys. Over the last few years, we've seen Stern remake, remaster, and anniversary edition their limited editions, impacting value of the core LE buyer base. They slide around statements on the matter, but are a manufacturing business after, and Metallica seems to set a new precedent. Do you feel these actions may potentially impact brand loyalty longer term in favor of the short-term profits? Growing pinball is their aim, but do you see it sacrificing one buyer base in hopes of another in the process, or no? Thank you, Shannon." I think he meant manufacturing business after all, is why I hesitated. I think he meant to say after all instead of just after. All right, but anyway, you get the context. So Shannon is asking about this and he didn't use this word, but I'm going to use the word betrayal, the betrayal of the LE buyers. And this came up a lot, which is why they did put out that statement about doing new versions of. I don't know that they actually came back and did a new LE, but the issue that's been maybe they did. Here's the thing. There's already been like the Elvira's, and there was the 40th anniversary edition that came out. And that one was like super exclusive, and it was after the LE version of Elvira, which, had the 3 tiers with the SLE. And then the Blood Red Kiss edition, which is like a premium, came out, but general consensus was it looked better than the 40th one, which was the one that they were trying to sell for $25,000 a pop. So anyway, obviously Metallica has dredged this all up because, as Shannon noted, Stern's sliding around, making their own little loopholes on what counts as an LE and what doesn't. And Zach and I actually had a discussion about this on the latest pinball show, because you probably would not be too surprised. His stance was, this is great. This is a much better version of Metallica. They absolutely should sell this.
Of course it is.
These these are LEs. The other one is old. It's a different game. It's got different art. It doesn't have the same rules. Right.
Of course, that's his opinion.
Of course, I know. I know that wouldn't surprise you. And my stance was a little more trying to get at, so what's the statute of limitations on betraying LEs? Because if you said something was limited and it's the same layout, changing the art doesn't, so you added new code, you added new rules, but hypothetically, all those things could be added to the SAM game, via USB stick.
Right.
But so for me, it was, I get why they're doing it, but Stern has played, as Shannon noted, Stern's done this in other ways too. They expanded from their original expectation on the number of SLEs for Batman 66. I believe it was Munster's LE that they increased the count when there was the initial demand over the art. And so they have broken their word before, and now it seems like they're trying to be a little more careful about following their word, but shaping it in such a way that it allows all sorts of instances to exist that I think they would know logically people, I was going to say by and large, but I'll say some people wouldn't like, whereas others might. So obviously anyone who didn't get a Metallica LE back in the day might love this idea of being able to get a new version of one. But I think, as you noted, how Metallicas were probably getting pretty hard to find on the used market. It had been such a long time. This devalued all of those Metallicas. Doesn't, other than maybe the pros, because there's no alternative for the pro. Metallica right. Premium, Metallica LE, those are gonna, in my opinion, those will sell for less, a lot less, because the new one is, art opinion aside, the new one is better in every way. Every way.
It will. Yeah, it'll push down the price of the used.
So back to Shannon's email. What do you think this impacts brand loyalty? That was Shannon's question.
No, not really. I think at this point, pinball is so niche and there are so few large players that it's not going to overly affect brand loyalty. I think that the pinball hobby has proven that you can do anything to them and they will still buy your most expensive edition no matter what you do or how terrible of a person you are or how terrible of a company you are. They're still going to sell out. They're still going to handle it. I just think that's where we have come to in such a small hobby with such a high price tag that those people who are going to buy in are going to buy all in. But I do think that those kind of concerns are a large part of the reason why their LE count is 500 as opposed to a larger count, because I don't know that they thought they could have sold more than that. And that's why they decided to go with the smaller count.
I actually agree with you. I don't see this impacting brand loyalty. And it's for the main reason that you've pointed out, or at least one of the reasons you've pointed out, which is regarding who you're going to turn to.
Right.
That's not, you don't have real options in this hobby. If you want new in-box pinball, Stern is the only sizable game in town. We will talk up JJP, we will talk up CGC, we will talk up Spooky, who are their biggest quote unquote competitors, but it's quote unquote for a reason, because they're not real competitors to Stern. Stern controls so much of this market that if you were to just decide, I'm not doing Stern anymore, you absolutely can do it, and you probably won't like your experience very much.
Yeah. It'd be like trying to opt out of Google and you still use the internet.
Yeah. It's just, it's not, and I don't, I hate doing, because this is pinball and video game podcast, but because I'm familiar with watches for other hobbying reasons, I'm giving you a case in point for a different scenario. Let's say you wanted to say, I don't want to have anything to do with a Rolex. That is so much easier to do. They are seen as a behemoth in watchmaking, but they, in terms of income for Switzerland, so that's not counting Japan or Germany, which have major watch manufacturing hubs, and I mean luxury watch manufacturing hubs, not just the basic stuff. Rolex is only 25% of the Swiss watch income. So you think about that compared to Stern, which is 80+% of the entire world of pinball.
Yeah, you
versus what is seen as the biggest, most profitable company in watches, not counting Apple, because Apple's watch is actually bigger, makes more money than Rolex does. But Rolex, it's 25% of, and that's only the Swiss watch industry. You start factoring in the Germans and the Japanese, it's an even lower percentage.
Yeah.
So my point is, in other spaces, automotive, watches, comics, it's a question of who else is a real player in the space. And as you noted, Tony, there's not anyone else other than Stern. There's really just, you could go. I know people that get every CGC game, but CGC can't even put out a new game a year.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's the nature of the hobby, because we are such a small niche hobby. And the problem is that we compare ourselves to, video games, tabletop games, watches, these other hobbies that we're part of and we know of, but they all have a much larger base. The reality is the closer comparison would be to something like RC cars and RC airplanes. The much smaller, more niche groups is where pinball would actually fit in better.
Right.
And I can't argue those because I don't know anything about RC cars and RC airplanes other than, just the very most basic of basics.
The one thing I will say, Shannon, that I do think where it could have an impact on brand loyalty is some of those past LE buyers might forsake buying LEs. It depends on the nature of the collector, though.
Right.
If it's about status and the flex, and for a lot of people it just is, then they're over a barrel. They don't have the wherewithal, will be how I'll phrase it nicely. They don't have the wherewithal to walk away from Stern. They're too invested in it. So they'll grouse. And maybe they'll grouse to Stern. And then that's where I think you get Stern making these little kind of mealy mouth. We're not going to remake any LEs as long as they're Spike 2 LE, right, sort of things. But some others might be like, you know what? Because I don't trust Stern anymore on what they're going to remake versus, from a high end thing. Maybe I just get premiums now. There may be some that do that.
Maybe.
The thing is, there's so many new people in the hobby, that void is going to be that. Again, it's like for Metallica Remastered, it's 500 units. That pit is going to be filled in with new buyers.
Yes.
So they're just not. So no, Stern wins no matter what because y'all allow them to win. But it's not all y'all's fault because it's not like you can just make there be another major manufacturer that's at Stern's level because a lot have tried.
Right.
They've tried and failed. They've tried and died.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. I stole it.
I know.
One last thing, I didn't put this in our internal notes, Tony, but I just remembered it because I was checking something. I was having some people had some issues with iTunes or so, not with our podcast, but I heard about it with others, so I was making sure ours worked in iTunes, was still working, and it is. But then I saw apparently we had a new iTunes review. We hadn't had a new iTunes review since 2022.
Wow!
So I don't ever think about it. We don't ever talk about promoting the iTunes reviews anymore because we don't really care if people if we grow the channel or not. But one came in June. Of this year from, I'm going to probably mispronounce their handle, but it looks like it's Jackal Shark, which sounds like a very scary shark. But but this is what they wrote. I thought you might get a kick out of this. They did give us 5 stars, so we appreciate that.
We appreciate that.
And Jackal said, subject title was, "Be selective and choose the eclectic." And Jackal wrote, "As far as pinball podcasts go, it's really hard to beat the mix of the knowledgeable cynic Dennis teamed up with the lighthearted pessimist Tony. Having a good basic recap of the video game industry is just a bonus." That's it. That's what Jackal wrote. So thank you, Jackal.
That's beautiful.
The lighthearted pessimist.
I'm the lighthearted pessimist.
I was saving that to tell you here.
That's so awesome. I mean, the thing that cracks me up about that.
You're like the cheery Eeyore.
It is. I'm the cheery Eeyore. That's cool. That's awesome. See, I'm used to, at this point, everybody considers me a massive cynic when it comes to most things. But on here, you're the cynic. And I'm just a straight up pessimist.
You're just,
but I'm a happy pessimist.
Yes, the lighthearted.
I'm the lighthearted.
Pessimistic joy.
It's like, it's all going to fail and everything's going to fall apart. But you know what? That's okay.
Oh, well.
We'll just live with it. Mm-hmm. We'll live down here in the dumpster fire with everybody
You're that
else.
Dog. This is fine.
You're
the fine dog.
I actually have a "This is fine" patch on my laptop bag.
That's cool.
It's just sitting there. This is fine.
Well, I think it's probably fine for us to move on to the video game segment.
It is. So, you know what else was apparently fine? Apparently, laying off 2,550 people is fine. Does great things for the bottom line. Good enough that the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, they got a 63% increase in pay this year, so they're making $79.1 million. And they only had to fire 2,500 people to do it.
Wow. I wonder how much I could get if I... What? No.
I don't have 2,500 people to lay
that's
off.
why I just have to wonder.
I got to figure, it's like, man, how's that work out to percentage-wise? How many of my staff can I lay off to get to $1 million a year? I mean, that's the question.
It is. It's tough.
And the answer is...
No, it wouldn't happen.
It wouldn't happen.
Because, we can't have a mix of cash and stock is the problem. See, that's the thing. It's not just like a $75 million W9 or 2 or I'm getting my W's mixed up, but
right, yeah, no, because it's a mixture of cash and stock. I mean,
yeah,
can you?
Their stock's doing pretty good because I have a few shares of Microsoft.
Yeah, I'm definitely sure it's doing.
And now they're doing the big Call of Duty push, so we'll see how well that does for them. I'm sure when we start seeing the public disclosures.
What would it be like if public entities release stock?
It would be
how dystopian nightmare would that be?
I think you've described an ideology. So
I mean,
it's like, well, I own this.
I
own the road.
I own 2 shares in St.
road.
Louis. It's worth 4 cents. Oh wait, no, that's because it's East St. Louis.
Yeah. Oh.
It's weird.
So
I was looking at my shares of East St. Louis, and they just lit on fire in my hand. Just spontaneous combustion.
It's a penny stock. It's a penny stock.
There's just people at the mall just handing them out. They're just, would you like some East St. Louis?
Well, so Nadella must be pretty happy.
Yeah, no, I definitely. I mean, who wouldn't be happy with making just shy of $80 million for 1 year's work?
Do you think he'd do he'd try less hard if he only was making like $70 million?
I'll be 100% honest. At this point, if I made $80 million in a year, I would just retire.
You wouldn't put in like a couple of years to just like fix things?
I might consider it, but more likely than not, I would be like, all right, well, I gave her the old college try. We did what we could. All right, thanks everybody. Where are you going? It's like, oh yeah, I've got
To that van.
I've got a van over there, and I'm going to go sleep in it and drive around the country. So see you, bye-bye. Now, they did announce as well that with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard King, they now have 20 franchises that have generated more than $1 billion in lifetime revenue.
I mean, that's a lot of franchise money. Let's see if they can use it properly.
Right. That's the question. Is how many? And let's be fair. Some of these titles, when you're talking about lifetime revenue, you are talking about 20 plus years at this point. It's like Warcraft has generated more than $1 billion. Yeah, when did the first Warcraft come out? Like 93 or something like that? So I'm okay. Yeah, I can see that. How many Warcraft games have there been? Yeah. Yep. No, I can understand that. And as a follow-up with their pushing to release more of their big in-house first-party games into other gaming spaces, they did announce that they're going to be releasing the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is hitting PC and Xbox in December, but it's coming out to PlayStation in February. So it's only got like a 2-month delay before it hits PlayStation.
I'm a little surprised they don't just release it simultaneously.
I know,
that short of a delay. Otherwise, I would have thought they'd have waited at least half a year.
Well, see, then that's my thought. And then, of course, my other thought is, it's like, has there ever been a good Indiana Jones game?
I never played the Atlantis one. Was it good? Do we know? It wasn't?
I've heard not.
Okay. I don't know.
I've
People
never
seem
played
pretty
it.
positive on what they've seen out of this one.
Right. No, I mean, it's like, okay. It's like, yeah, we'll have, I don't know if Indiana Jones, or even necessarily that story type, lends itself well to video gamification.
Yeah, you may be right. I don't know. I think they look over and they go, it worked for Uncharted. We can get this to work. I think that's what they think.
Maybe. Yeah, I can see
Uncharted,
that.
Tomb Raider games are like, why can't Indiana work?
Yeah, Indiana's original. I guess it feels like, to me, it feels like Indiana.
Tomb Raider's really a platformer, so that's
right.
like its main thing. But
and to me, it feels like Indiana's would have to be so much more scripted to work, because it's so many set piece and one-liner type things. But who knows? We'll see how it goes. We didn't talk about it when the initial announcement was made, but there's been a modification to it that I found mildly interesting. Also, the fact that I completely missed the original announcement is part of it. But there's a new Like a Dragon game coming out, and it's got the greatest subtitle, because all the Like a Dragon games have a subtitle, and it's Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
okay.
The game opens up with Goro, the main character from most of the games, washed up on shore with amnesia.
Okay.
I'm assuming there's a shark jump in the game somewhere. I'm assuming it's necessary. But their big change was they were originally slated to release on the 28th of February. And then somebody in their marketing department realized that was the exact same day that the new Monster Hunter game was coming out.
That would be a problem.
So they're like, you know what? We're ahead on our, everything's looking real good, so we're just going to go ahead and move our release date up a week, so maybe people will play our game for a week before they just stop.
I think it's a good strategy.
I think it's a real good strategy.
And I think it's going to pay off for them.
I think so. The thing you do not want to open up against a Monster Hunter game or come out in like the week or two after a Monster Hunter game drops, unless you were like a heavy hitter. And I don't know that Like a Dragon games are that big of a heavy hitter.
I don't think so.
And Super Nintendo World, it's a Mushroom Kingdom inspired theme park. They've got one in Tokyo, and they've got one at Universal in California, is now opening at Universal in Orlando. So for everybody who's going to Orlando, now you can go spend time at the Mushroom Kingdom.
Enjoy all the cleanups after every hurricane.
Very true. Also, on the Nintendo front, they finally did it. They made their hardware announcement.
Yes.
They're releasing an alarm clock.
Yes. And it's like the most annoying alarm clock
It's the
ever.
most annoying alarm clock ever.
It's so awful.
You choose the sounds, and it's like the coin grab sounds from Mario games or all sorts of different things. But it's like the snooze and shut off button are like motion activated,
Yes.
but not just motion activated. It's like imaging, because if there's multiple of you in bed and one of you gets up out of bed, the alarm will turn off and then it'll reactivate because it realizes there's another person in the bed still.
Yes.
So not only is your alarm hearing Mario go nuts on the coin block, ding, 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 but creepy Uncle Nintendo is now watching and realizes when you get out of bed that your partner's still in bed. And they probably want an alarm to go off too. So they're going to turn back on and keep waiting until they go ding, 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 ding.
Ba-ding, ba-ding. You don't have to have coins. You can have the Splatoon shot.
Yeah, there's also... There's gonna be
Pikmin? No one's going to activate Pikmin.
My wife would.
No.
She would, 100%. But yeah, no, there's going to be like 30 some odd sounds, and there's going to be downloadable sounds and expansion stuff. It's just like, oh my, does anybody really, is this something somebody's clamoring for?
I got does anyone in your family want one? Have they said?
No. Are you kidding? I can't get my kids to set the alarm on their phones to wake up. I mean,
Are you the alarm?
Oh gosh, no! I'm at work
Because you get up pretty early, so
wake up.
You're
I'm at work
you're the
hours
snooze.
before they work.
You're the snooze alarm. Kids are getting up in 2 hours. Just FYI.
I didn't talk about it earlier. 2 weeks ago, my eldest daughter, we did a university visit to KU because she's a junior and she's starting to visit universities and this and that. But one of the tours she wanted to do was at 8 a.m. So I'm like, well, you need to, so the night before, I'm like, you need to go to bed. It's like 9:30 or 10 o'clock. She goes, well, we don't have to be there until 8. And I'm like, you do realize I'm waking you up at 5:30 because it's like a 40-minute drive, and you're going to want to stop and get breakfast because I know who you are, and I know the closest place we can park, and then we've got to walk, and I'm an old fat man. She's like, 5:30? And I'm like, yes, I'm waking you up at 5:30. And you know what? We got there about 10 minutes early. By the time I actually got her up, got going, we got on the road. We stopped and got breakfast because she wanted to stop and get breakfast.
Yeah.
Got up, got parked, and walked up to the place for the first tour. We got there about 10 minutes early. So my timing was exactly correct.
Yes. Well, I mean, you are familiar with that route, so.
Yes. Did it for a long time.
And did she say something like, "You were right, Father. I was wrong to doubt you"?
No, she made fun of me because at one point we started... after doing multiple tours of different engineering things, because engineering is her primary interest, she wanted to go and listen to a thing from the journalism group. So instead of waiting for the special buses that they had running around because it was their giant open house day, I was like, well, I know exactly where that building is because that's the building where I started before I realized journalism was a terrible major and quit it. And now I'm a podcaster. And went, let's just walk over there. And then we're walking up the hill. And KU has a hill.
At the top of the hill.
Exactly
Old
right.
store song,
and I'm going
jingle.
up that hill to that store. And we're getting up, and my daughter's like waiting at the top. And she's like, I thought you said the hill was bad. It's not that bad of a hill. Why are you breathing so hard? Are we going to be late? Are you going to be okay? Do I need to call an ambulance? And I'm just like, I should just leave you here.
She's roasting you.
It's like maybe it's like so once I get my enough breath back that I can speak with her as we're walking to the thing, I'm just like, I know it's not that far from home, but I am going to require you to live in the dorm for the first year or two. I think it'll do you good to live in a dorm.
Yes. All right, so no alarm clocks for your family.
No alarm clocks for my family. Now, of particular interest to me, they did release an announcement trailer for Subnautica 2. Subnautica was a really fun game. The DLC was nowhere near as good as the thing.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes. But what's interesting is Subnautica 2 is going to be a co-op multiplayer game, which is something that I think would be perfect for the Subnautica games.
Okay.
I think having that game co-op multiplayer would be akin to having co-op multiplayer on things like Satisfactory, Minecraft, stuff like that. I think it'll be a lot of fun. The interesting thing is they are doing an early access release, which is what they did with the original. They'll be early accessing sometime next year, but they're saying their plan is to be in early access for about 3 years. So we'll see what comes of it. I enjoyed the first one enough that I think I will not do any of the early access stuff, and I'll wait till it comes out and is completed and ready to go.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. Now in pinball, we've all heard the horror stories of working with a James Bond license.
Yes.
And all the myriad of issues that came out of that.
Supposedly the game's got good rules at this point.
Well, that's
I
good.
don't know.
I haven't played it since shortly after release.
Yeah.
So, but another company has decided to take a swing at the James Bond license. The team behind the Hitman games.
Oh.
Which are good games.
They are.
IO Interactive, I think.
I think it is IO, yes.
Yeah.
As long as you have the M16, they're good games.
Right. And it's so much easier when you just collapse a building.
How can anyone identify the hitman if everyone is dead?
Exactly. But they're doing a James Bond game, a James Bond origin story. It's an original James Bond story. And their hope is, if it does well, to make it into a trilogy of games. And it's obviously going to be made kind of in the Hitman style, would be my assumption, based upon who's doing it. So we're not looking at a GoldenEye style group multiplayer shoot 'em up so much as an actual story based game.
Okay.
So
Fun.
I think it
I think
could
it could be fun.
The question is just how much trouble are they going to have from the license? Because one of the things in an interview with the head of the studio was talking about was this is the first time they've dealt with a license that wasn't theirs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it might not be. I don't know if a video game will be as bad. There have been other video games that have used James Bond, and so I'm going to guess maybe that's not as brutal as what was going on with pinball, because I think, I don't know what happened all with, but purportedly it was stuff like the challenge they had were with the modes and stuff, and it's all tied around movies, and the licensor being really uncomfortable with like elements from different movies running at the same time was like a big part of the issue. So
right.
That shouldn't be a problem.
And since this is an original story.
Right. So it's probably more about like getting the asset look of Bond approved, and maybe some of the villains, if they're using anything that was like Spectre or something.
Right. Which would make sense for something like this, would be to use Spectre.
But it might, them not being used to working with licenses, it could still be a steep curve. We'll see.
But that's all I've got in video games today.
Well, then we've done it. We've educated the world.
Education.
The entire world. If you would like to educate us, you can always email us, eclecticgamerspodcast@gmail.com, or go to facebook.com/eclecticgamerspodcast. If you'd like to support the channel, we have a variety of Patreon tiers, 3 specifically, the lowest of which is just $1 a month, and that's at patreon.com/eclectic_gamers.
We're available on Twitch and Instagram as eclectic_gamers.
And we will be back in a couple of weeks. Will there be new releases to talk about? I don't know. Supposedly American Pinball's release was originally planned to be at Expo, and it is not at Expo, so it could be imminent. We don't know.
This is me not holding my breath.
I can tell, because you seem to still be breathing.
And I'm speaking.
But until the next episode, regardless of the state of American Pinball, my name is Dennis. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.